The endocrine system works to regulate how our bodies grow and develop. In particular, this system controls the release of hormones throughout the body. The process of hormone release begins with the central nervous system, specifically the hypothalamus, signaling the pituitary gland to send its own chemical signals to the various glands in your body. Each gland is associated with specific hormones, which are then produced and released into the bloodstream to affect the rest of the body. Here's a great video covering that process.
Over the course of our lifetimes, our bodies undergo a series of extraordinary metamorphoses. We grow, experience puberty, and many of us reproduce. Behind the scenes, the endocrine system works constantly to orchestrate these changes. Alongside growth and sexual maturity, this system regulates everything from your sleep to the rhythm of your beating heart, exerting its influence over each and every one of your cells. The endocrine system relies on interactions between three features to do its job: glands, hormones, and trillions of cell receptors. Firstly, there are several hormone-producing glands, 3 in your brain and 7 in the rest of your body. Each is surrounded by a network of blood vessels, from which they extract ingredients to manufacture dozens of hormones. Those hormones are then pumped out in tiny amounts, usually into the bloodstream. From there, each hormone needs to locate a set of target cells in order to bring about a specific change. To find its targets, it's helped along by receptors, which are special proteins inside or on the cell's surface. Those receptors recognize specific hormones as they waft by and bind to them. When this happens, that hormone-receptor combination triggers a range of effects that either increase or decrease specific processes inside the cell to change the way that cell behaves. By exposing millions of cells at a time to hormones in carefully regulated quantities, the endocrine system drives large-scale changes across the body. Take, for instance, the thyroid and the 2 hormones it produces, triiodothyronine and thyroxine. These hormones travel to most of the body's cells, where they influence how quickly those cells use energy and how rapidly they work. In turn, that regulates everything from breathing rate to heartbeat, body temperature, and digestion. Hormones also have some of their most visible and familiar effects during puberty. In men, puberty begins when the testes start secreting testosterone. That triggers the gradual development of the sexual organs, makes facial hair sprout, and causes the voice to deepen and height to increase. In women, estrogen secreted from the ovaries signals the start of adulthood. It helps the body develop, makes the hips widen, and thickens the womb's lining, preparing the body for menstruation or pregnancy. An enduring misconception around the endocrine system is that there are exclusively male and female hormones. In fact, men and women have estrogen and testosterone, just in different amounts. Both hormones play a role in pregnancy as well, alongside more than 10 other hormones that ensure the growth of the fetus, enable birth, and help the mother feed her child. Such periods of hormonal change are also associated with fluctuations in mood. That's because hormones can influence the production of certain chemicals in the brain, like serotonin. When chemical levels shift, they may cause changes in mood as well. But that's not to say that hormones have unlimited power over us. They're frequently viewed as the main drivers of our behavior, making us slaves to their effects, especially during puberty. But research shows that our behavior is collectively shaped by a variety of influences, including the brain and its neurotransmitters, our hormones, and various social factors. The primary function of the endocrine system is to regulate our bodily processes, not control us. Sometimes disease, stress, and even diet can disrupt that regulatory function, however, altering the quantity of hormones that glands secrete or changing the way that cells respond. Diabetes is one of the most common hormonal disorders, occurring when the pancreas secretes too little insulin, a hormone that manages blood sugar levels, and hypo and hyperthyroidism occur when the thyroid gland makes too little or too much thyroid hormone. When there's too little thyroid hormone, that results in a slowed heart rate, fatigue, and depression. And when there's too much thyroid hormone, weight loss, sleeplessness, and irritability. But most of the time, the endocrine system manages to keep our bodies in a state of balance. And through its constant regulation, it drives the changes that ultimately help us become who we are.
Given the endocrine system regulates nearly all of our bodily processes in some way, it should not surprise you that all of the systems we have discussed so far have been managed in some way by this system. Even the central nervous system is influenced by hormones. The release of hormones is governed by feedback loops that keep the body in balance, or homeostasis. For instance, if the body is cold, hormones will release to activate shivering, which increases body heat. Too much heat from that shivering, and the body will release hormones to activate sweat glands, thus cooling the body more, so on and so forth. Perfect balance. Of course, sometimes the body doesn't want balance, such as in puberty, but the endocrine system is programmed to restore balance after a certain point. The endocrine system is also programmed to release hormones at specific rates, many of which are dictated by one's circadian rhythm. The circadian rhythm is an internal process that regulates sleep-wake cycle by controlling hormone release and body temperature. You aren't born with this cycle, you develop it based on your lifestyle. You can actually change your circadian rhythm over the course of a few weeks if you set different sleep and wake times. As part of the circadian rhythm, your body releases melatonin when it is dark to help you fall asleep, as well as cortisol when you wake up to give you a boost of energy to get the day started. The hormone cortisol will be particularly important when discussing stress responses later. Also, something important is to understand the difference between the hormones released by the endocrine system versus neurotransmitters released by the nervous system. Many neurotransmitters and hormones are the same chemical composition, and some even have the same name. However, they are unique in how and where they are spread throughout the body. Neurotransmitters are signaled by electrical impulses that send chemicals over a short distance between synapses, resulting in very quick communications that are short-lived and localized to specific neurons. Hormones, on the other hand, are signaled from chemical processes in the bloodstream, thus taking substantially longer to reach the target tissue and longer still to leave the system. Think about your reaction when someone surprises you. You experience an initial shock to your system that happens immediately, but even after you realize it was just a joke, your heart is still pounding. The initial reaction is the neurotransmitters, whereas the progressively slowing heart rate is the hormones leaving your system. Given balance is so essential to the endocrine system, disorders of this system come from breakdown in the production or recognition of hormones, thus breaking the feedback loops necessary for homeostasis. The most common disorder is diabetes, which stems from dysregulation of insulin, a hormone necessary for absorbing glucose, that is sugar. In type 1 diabetes, the body produces too little insulin, resulting in the body unable to process sugars, resulting in low energy and inability to function. This type of diabetes is often genetic, has no known prevention, and is also considered an autoimmune disorder. Type 2 diabetes, which is by far the most common type of diabetes, comes from the body not responding appropriately to insulin, frequently due to previous overproduction of insulin. This type of diabetes, however, can be prevented or delayed by lifestyle behaviors such as eating habits and exercise. Thus, type 2 diabetes is a major focus of health intervention research, particularly focusing on biopsychosocial determinants. Diabetes is also more common in Black, non-Hispanic individuals, highlighting the importance of examining health psychology in diverse demographics.